Good evening and welcome to this edition of the Gold, Goats, and Guns News Hour. My name is Tom Luongo. It is Monday, July 9th, 2018. Hope everybody had a good weekend. Sorry I didn't get on here Sunday afternoon. Was just feeling off. Did some writing in the morning and then couldn't bring myself to hop in and comment on the world, which I should have put it in the description of this video. Wow, what a weekend. So while we're waiting for people to get into the scope, I want to talk about, we'll talk a little bit about that, and then we'll move on to the issues of the day. Remember, you can follow my work over at goldgoatsandguns.com, and you can subscribe to the Gold, Goats, and Guns investment newsletter by subscribing to my Patreon feed, a link to which is in the description of the video below. Also, please, if you like what you hear tonight, make sure you subscribe to the channel and then click on notifications to ensure that you find out when I'm going to go on next. We normally do this at Monday nights at 8 and Friday nights at 9. All right, now all the housekeeping is out of the way. Let's get down to the brass tacks. Wow, the Russia-Croatia game. Okay, I've been watching sports my entire life. I mean, I don't have a memory that doesn't involve me sitting in front of the TV set watching the New York Yankees on WPIX. All right, I mean, and then eventually I fell out of love with the Yankees and became a Mets fan. Then I just fell out of love with baseball. And then eventually I fell out of love with all sports in general, with the notable exception of the sport of hockey. But every 4 years I get involved, I get caught up in the World Cup because the World Cup is fantastic. Or at least the World Cup has the potential to be fantastic. And this World Cup in general has been nothing short of riveting. Just riveting. Watching the changes in the changing of the guard, as it were, across all of the whole world of football. Watching Brazil go out in the quarterfinals this weekend to Belgium. Watching the Russians and Croatia play what may be one of the great matches of all time against two teams that were, say evenly matched in terms of skill. Of course, Croatia was far more skilled than the Russians were, but everybody left it all on the line. It's one of those games where it's like, it reminded me, as I was watching the game with Camille, it reminded me of the 4 overtime game between Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, or 4.5 overtime game between Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, that in the second round of the playoffs back in, I can't remember now, 2008, something like that. Where the game went on so long, they had to order in pizza because they ran the building out of food. Okay, so there are 20,000 people, and they were running out of food. They had to order in pizza for the players in order to put some food back in them, for Christ's sake. It was crazy. So it was just, but that game between Russia and Croatia, I mean, everything you ever asked for in a soccer game and more. Heart, grit, determination, goals, dramatic goals, crazy, relatively good officiating, guys cramping up, people crying, balls going off of crossbars, goalkeepers making saves and the ball still going in. I mean, that game couldn't have been written better, right? It couldn't have been written better. To have, like, Mario Fernandez tie the game in the 115th minute, only to miss his penalty kick 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later. Unbelievable. What a game. Great for the Russians, great for Croatia, great for the sport of soccer, great for international politics, great for everything. So, absolutely loved what I saw this weekend, World Cup. Watched all 4 games, all 4 quarterfinal matches. Destroyed my productivity. Made up for it today. Wrote 2 big blog posts today. You can find them find them in the link to the description to both of them down below. All right. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about the news. So it's like, I never get tired of saying this. Wow, nothing happened this week. It's almost like with England going to the semifinals in the World Cup, it almost makes me want to think that Theresa May presented this ridiculously bad Brexit bill to her cabinet, thinking, well, everybody's distracted. England's in the semifinals for the first time in a generation. I can get this thing through. I want to have it blow up in her face. Like, seriously, how dumb do you think everybody is? It is really quite amazing. So the deal was terrible, and it caused no less than 5 ministers to bolt from the May government, and the most prominent of which, of course, is Foreign Secretary Boris the Buffoon Johnson. Boris was kind of cool when he used to read LRC, LouRockwell.com, and he was mayor of London. I don't know what happened to Boris, but wow. So, but the events of this weekend really paid for me everything I said in a post from a couple of months ago about the Skripal poisoning, the Skripal gate. Remember when Sergei and Yulia Skripal, the former Russian double agent, was poisoned outside a park bench in Salisbury, which is right down the road from Porton Down. Chemical weapons factory facility, testing facility for British government. And how that sparked a major international incident. There was diplomatic expulsions everywhere. Everybody was blaming the Russians. The Russians denied everything. No one's ever come out and been able to properly identify what actually poisoned these people. Supposedly this is the most deadly stuff on the planet, and yet these people survived, and yet they haven't talked to anybody either. All of this stuff is going on, and yet all I said back then was, when the Porton Down administrator refused to sign off that they could identify the origin of the nerve agent used on the Skripals, that to me signaled this was all a big setup in order to continue to discredit Theresa May's government to the point where they would take them down. Because the goal here is to get rid of Theresa May, is to have her destroy Brexit. If she can't get it through, through a Brexit name only, which she looks like she's trying to, then that will split the Tory party right down the middle between the Remainers and between the Brexiteers and the Remoaners. And then you'll have a perfect opportunity for the May government to fall, new elections to show up, new elections to happen, and because there's no credible opposition now other to Labour, Labour would take over. Jeremy Corbyn would be ousted from his leadership position in Labour because, well, no one's actually going to let him have the keys to the candy store. And then some Tony Blair clone who's completely compromised will take over Labour, scuttle Brexit, and things will go on the same as usual. Very similar to the plan that MI6, MI5, and the Clintons put together and Obama put together in order to get rid of Donald Trump here in the United States. Centered around Russia collusion and centered around his supposed collusion with Russia to overthrow, to interfere with the election and elect Donald Trump. It's all, complete nonsense. So, I still have to ask the question, where is Christopher Steele? And answer that question. Not showing up anywhere. So, the timing on this is fascinating. It's all happening right before the NATO summit. Trump's going to show up in a couple days at NATO. And I fully expect at this point to have him walk in and piss on everybody's cornflakes and it be a repeat, but even more contentious than the G7 meeting. Oh, yeah. I mean, so I expect that. I expect all of this to be happening right. But if you look at what's happening, right, Then right after that, you're going to have the Trump-Putin summit. But if you look at what's happening across Europe, it's really obvious. I said this in my blog post. It's really obvious that all of the political pressures, the harder that the establishment tries to hold on to the EU as their unelected technocracy that will rule Europe and then eventually the world. That's the plan, because the EU is just a model for the kind of governance that these people want to implement, because they don't actually want to be beholden to the people themselves, because they absolutely despise the people. I think the people have any right to govern themselves. That the harder these people, the Davos said, George Soros, whatever you want to freaking call them, the globalist elite, pedophiles, I don't know, whatever you want to call them. You call them whatever you like. There's plenty of names. You know who I'm talking about. The real power that runs the world. The harder they try to hold on to power through the manipulation of the democratic process, the manipulation of elections all over Europe, forcing people to vote over and over again until they get the right result, that kind of thing. The harder they try to keep control of that, the more they ensure that there's going to be a really ugly end to it all. The guy I don't quote often anymore because I don't listen to him anymore, but Gerald Celente, guy you've probably heard of, Trends Journal guy, has a great saying. When the people lose everything, they lose it. And that's what's coming. It's already happened in Italy. Okay? It's starting to happen in Germany. It's already begun in the UK. Brexit was that moment where they said, look, this is what we want, and we're going to get it. And if you don't give it to us peacefully, it's going to happen violently. Same thing's coming here in the United States, which is why the Democrats and the deep state have gone whole hog into trying to institute gun control against everybody's wishes, because they're trying to disarm everybody, because they want to have they need to have a disarmed populace in order to get any of this stuff done. Not going to work. Not going to work here. It's already worked in Britain. They've got them disarmed over there. Sadiq Khan won't let anybody have knives anymore. So, I don't know what's next. Straws? So the situation in Britain is reaching a crisis point. I don't know what's going to happen, but I can tell you that the plan has always been to split the Tories down the center, destroy them so that Labour can take over and they can scuttle Brexit. That's always been the plan, right? Because the British have a deep state problem that's as bad as ours, if not worse. Some of the commentary I'm getting through the channel right now, that Boris needs to go nuclear because it's his only chance. I agree. They need to, but really someone like Jacob Rees-Mogg needs to step up, and Nigel Farage cannot turn around and say, well, if it doesn't happen before on time by the March of 2019, I'll get back into politics. I'm like, no, you need to get back into politics right now. You should have never left in the first place. I love Nigel to death. I've been listening to the guy since like 2008 for Christ. King World News. He's fantastic. I appreciate everything he's done. You left the job unfinished because you left the job to the frickin' Tories. I know Mogg won't do it, TX. I wish he would. It's insane how this is playing out. It's not insane. It's actually completely predictable. That's the problem. So we'll see what happens. But Boris Johnson as Prime Minister of England scares me almost as much as Theresa May. But, he can't possibly be as bad as Theresa May because I can't honestly think of anybody worse other than, I mean, even Jeremy Corbyn at this point would be better because at least he's against Brexit. I mean, Corbyn's a moron. Okay. But, and like I said, they'll never let him have the keys to the candy store, please. It's just not done. But the Brits are setting the what's really funny is that the British deep state and the euro and the European Council, the European leaders are all cutting off their nose to spite their face. They're all so thoroughly against Brexit that they don't understand that they're setting up the very thing that's going to get them all hanging from nooses. And I don't mean to say this, that, I'm advocating that this happens. Obviously not. I'm saying this is what happens when you don't listen to the people. Governments only exist insofar as they have the backing of the people. Period. Government is a fiction that it's a delusion we all believe in. Because sometimes it's convenient. And it's better than fighting for it. And sometimes it's better to have government do what we don't want to do, even if it costs more, even if it's inefficient, even if it sucks to have them do it because we don't want to. Fine. We want to be feckless and lazy, that's fine. We want to have government, fine. I don't. I'm willing to work my ass off. But, not everybody is. And that's just the way life is. So I can swim against the stream and I can advocate for as much as I can. And I can advocate for a better way. But, the world I got, not the world I want. Right? So, but when the government gets to the point where it's not even willing to admit that it should be doing that, when it takes off the mask that it's even trying to do that it doesn't, in no way, manner, shape, or form, should it do that? Do you really think that government has a long and prosperous future? I say no. History's on my side on this one. So, long term here, guys, all of this is playing out exactly as I feared it would. And as, what was the highest probability thing. And I mean that, and I'll get to cynical skeptics comments in just a minute, so don't think I haven't read it or and I'll comment on this. This is about Jeremy Corbyn, but I want to stay on point for just another minute. Say the most likely outcome here was that they were always going to try this. Okay, this was always the plan. Just like the most likely outcome in Germany was a grand coalition between the CSU, the CDU, and the SPD, even though it took them 6 months to get there. Eventually, enough people's arms were twisted, palms were greased, compromising photos shown that they got it done. And that's just the way it is. Because that's the way it operates. That's the way European politics, really American politics as well, that's the way it operates. Okay? There's a plan. That's what we're doing. And elections are a convenient way to keep everybody pacified, that they giving them the illusion that they had a choice for something other than what the predetermined outcome was. That's where we are. Brexit had them scared. They've now taken 2 years, almost to the day, or just over 2 years to get us to this point. Like, how cynical could they possibly be? Okay, so to address cynical skeptics' comment, and I'm going to read it. Tom, why do you think that Corbyn will get removed from Labour leadership? He stood all the attacks up till now. He's not exactly a UKIP, but he is an anti-war and a Brexiteer, as far as I know. No, he's not really a Brexiteer. What he is he's willing to say, that's what the people voted for, that's what we should give them. Look, Jeremy Corbyn is not my idea of what a leader of the Brits should be. But I'm telling you, he's not going to if Labour, he's allowed to be in power in Labour when they're the opposition. Okay? It doesn't hurt anything because if you look at what's been happening, the deep state is in Britain, the establishment in Britain, the media and everything else has just moved to destroy May, to destroy the Tories and to further radicalize people the same way they're doing it here in the United States. Okay? Do you really think that Tom Perez and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez are going to lead the Democratic Party going forward? If you do, you should have your head examined. These people were put there as moronic caretakers while they go whole hog against Trump, and they don't let anybody with any real connections and any real political power behind the scenes get damaged in the process. Corbyn is fine. He's there to do effectively. If he gets harmed in the process of them destroying Brexit, so what? He wasn't their choice anyway. They want Tony Blair back, or his Labour equivalent clone. I don't know who that person is, but it doesn't matter. They've got 14 or 15 of them just lined up with compromising photos to ensure that, that he does what he's supposed to do. So Corbyn is somebody who can easily be sacrificed in all of this stuff. We have to think both tactically and strategically. Jambo says, May is almost visibly decaying in front of our eyes. I'm very much enjoying it. I've been calling her the Gypsum Lady as opposed to the Iron Lady for over a year now. I think she's just terrible. And she looks like she's like the most overpowdered person I've ever seen. She literally looks like a vampire, and she has no blood. But be that as it may, I don't know. I honestly think that whoever does her makeup is doing it on purpose in order to make her look as severe and as ungodly, inhuman as possible, in order to make her unsympathetic as possible. And I'm serious. She was put in place to be weak and to destroy Brexit. That was her job. Her job was to always get us to this point. That was always her job. Oh, I'm enjoying it too. I think Theresa May is terrible. I also think, right, and she wears bright red lipstick to emphasize all of it. I mean, at the end of the day, I've seen corpses, that look better with more blood in their skin. Corbyn has more like Bernie Sanders grassroots support, but he does have grassroots support, and that's why he's in charge. But make no mistake, in no way, manner, shape, or form will the British deep state, after doing all this work to get rid of May and to destroy the Tories, are they in any way, manner, shape, or form going to let Corbyn survive to become prime minister as the leading Labour? He may take office. He will not last in the job. That will not happen. I'm not like going to go all John McAfee and say I'm willing to eat my dick in public over it, but I am willing to, stake my reputation on it such that it is. This doesn't make any sense. I mean, if craziness of craziness, Jeremy Corbyn is the guy who actually delivers a Nigel Farage style Brexit, I will laugh a lot, and I'll be happy to be wrong. One of those moments where yeah, sure, okay. I don't think that's going to happen, but if it does, I'm going to freaking laugh. It's going to be hilarious. Right before they kill him. Come on. TX says to her lover, if I remember correctly, whose husband is German, correct? Boris will be prime minister in my opinion by next week. Fine. Maybe. I hope so. If he whips the votes together, all they have to do is get 48 letters signed from MPs to say that we want to start the process of a no confidence vote against her, and she won't survive it. The way I follow politics, Cynical Skeptic says, I think May took power after Brexit because no one from the Tories wanted to take it. Bojo was too big of a liability. What's the end goal of the English deep state? The status quo. They want look, at the end of the day, it's all about power. It's all about continuing to keep the power that they have. Brexit will disrupt a lot of that. There's a tremendous amount of intermingling between the European and the British financial sectors. Right? City of London does not want this. At least, as far as I understand, they don't want it. So if they wanted it, it would have already happened. But no, this is about trying to save the pan-European project. This is about continuing the process of transnational integration. So, and looking at what Mueller and these latest things that are coming up against Trump, it's pretty obvious that they're still not done trying to impeach and get rid of Trump. Because if they can scuttle Brexit, and they can keep Merkel alive on life support, they can get rid of Trump, they may be able to win. At least that's what they're thinking. But the history lover is asking me the question. I agree with you about the UK deep state, but if the EU falls, or EU fails and it is failing, what then? Well, what then? See, this is the interesting question. I think Trump, as we were talking about the last time, I think Trump is putting all of this pressure on Germany to highlight all of the advantages that Germany has gotten from the EU through the currency, through the single currency and all of the rest of it, in order to destroy national sovereignty. And I think what Trump is actually trying to do is trying to get Germany out, either kicked out of the EU or get them to leave on their own. Not going to happen, but I think that's, and then you can leave it, and then allow the nativists, the Viktor Orbáns, the Salvinis, and whatnot, the Sebastian Kurz, to come together and roll it back to a customs union and a vague political federation, and with a common international dispute resolution system, which is what it should have been in the first place. But what has to happen first is a full-on sovereign debt crisis. And the only way they get to that state, right? The only way they get to the former state, which is where Germany has to leave. And good evening, hi from Belgium, and congratulations on beating Brazil over the weekend. That was a well-played game. So and feel free to please, Firefly, to chime in if I've got things horribly wrong, because I don't think I do, but for the most part, I always love to hear from people who are there, giving me feedback as to what I think is going on. So the sorry, I'm just reading your comments. So the possibility of that happening, of Germany leaving the Eurozone and the nativists taking over, the only way that in any way, manner, shape, or form works is that by kicking out effectively kicking out the ones who are most against, and what I'm looking for, a consolidation under one rubric, i.e. the European Central Bank, all of Europe's debts, whoever's left, all of those who want to stay in the euro, they're going to have to consolidate everything under one debt issuer, the ECB, which is something the German people are completely against, and most of Northern Europe is against, and with good reason. because they don't want to pay for, I get it. I understand why, but it's why they should have never in a million years gone where they've gone, right? So, I'm going to get to AFD in a minute. So the possibility of that happening is very low, but that would be the only way that could occur, and then they can consolidate everything under the ECB. The ECB could bury all the bad debt on their balance sheet, and then be the only ones actually issuing debt from there forward, and then they can somehow cobble everything together. But the reality is that I don't think that that's going to happen. I think that you're going to be able to short the euro all the way down to 70 cents over the course of the next 5 years with very little issue, and that the eurozone is going to look nothing like it currently looks right now, because there's just no way it continues under the current circumstances. TX History Level reminds me that Dr. Weidel, that would be the head of Alternative for Germany, tweeted out today that the AFD are now at 17% at the polls. Actually, I saw something, they were just about at 18%. It was just over 17 and a half. So with a rounding error, we're talking 18%, which means they're beginning to cross the chasm, and that should have everybody in Europe scared to death. I don't know what the English people will do after they scuttle Brexit, Suzanne, but what I can say is that at some point, it comes into the minds of every decent man that eventually you have to spit in your hands, hoist the black flag, and start slitting throats. H.L. Mencken. When people lose everything, they freaking lose it. So, yeah. So, what I mean by crossing the chasm or crossing the gap, for those of you who don't know, for the new people in the audience, when you're looking at a political movement or a new technology or something like that, the early adopters and people who are open to new ideas and new technology and whatnot, they can get you up to about 16% market share. Around 16%. And then there's a chasm between 16 and 17 that opens up. Because at that point, you move into a different demographic, and you have to convince a completely different demographic of people with a different mindset that this is the right path. So now the question is, so in political movements, it's easy to see protest votes move up to about the 16% mark, 15, 16%, and then peter out. Right? It's easy to see that happens all the time. UKIP got to around 13, 14% right around Brexit. And then Brexit happened and their support collapsed. Nigel Farage quit, their support collapsed, and now they're back down at the 6, 7, 8% range. Right? Now they got to work harder to get back to where they were, and then they've got to rebrand themselves yet again, as opposed to using the momentum from Brexit to say, vote for us. All you Tories who voted for Brexit in Parliament, we're here for you. We're going to be the party that holds everybody's feet to the fire and ensures a Brexit. They would have been in a good position in 2017 had they done that, to maybe get a big enough slice of the pie to force Theresa May along a different path. They didn't do that. Farage left for his own reasons, wherever he did so are his reasons. But tactically and strategically, it was the worst move he could have ever made. You don't quit when you've won. You quit after the job is done. Job wasn't finished. So now, looking at what's happening with AFD in Germany, AFD is beginning to hit that 16% area there, and the latest polls with the Merkel-Seehofer fight have them starting to cross the gap. 17%, 18% in some polls. Some areas, we know in East Germany, in what used to be in East Germany, that AFD polls much, much higher than that. I know Nigel was tired. I know he worked his ass off, and I know he wanted to be out of the spotlight a little bit. I know, but sorry, sometimes, maybe he had a health scare. Maybe maybe his doctor told him if you don't cut it out, you're gonna die of a heart attack. I don't know, but whatever it was, or maybe he was just threatened bodily and he needed to walk away for a little while. I don't know. We'll see. But And look, it's not like I don't understand his motivations. I'm talking about it as a strategist here and as a tactician. I'm not talking at I am not judging Nigel's reasons for why he did what he did. I'm just saying tactically it was a terrible move. But that's just one guy's opinion. I don't know. So for AFD, it's important now that they start to brand differently, that they start to brand themselves as the party that isn't just anti-Merkel or anti this or anti that, that they're against this, that they're against that. Getting to 16% is easy if you're against things. Being negative and being against things isn't an ethos. It's just an abnegation of that which exists now. It's not its own set of principles. It's not its own ethos. Say what you want about National Socialism, dude. At least it's an ethos, right? Not my quote from a movie, Walter from The Big Lebowski. All right. So just to remind, right, what I'm talking about here. That's where AFD has to start the rebranding and become the party that can lead Germany forward. They can lead a new Germany into a new century or whatever they have to do. Okay, that's what they have to do. They have to start playing up that communitarian ideal. They have to start trying to bring a divided Germany together. Because you look, and as I said multiple times, when you look at the polls in Germany, it's like 5 or 6 parties have between 10 and 20% support. It's terrible. There's no way. It's like Spain. There's no way you can cobble together an effective government out of it. The best you have is a caretaker cartel government that's beholden to external forces. So, but if AFD does this right, then they will push up to 30-35% very quickly. The establishment in Germany and across the EU and Britain and the United States, all of them, they know this is bad. They know containment has been breached. They know that they have a problem on their hands. That's why they're desperate to try and pull all this stuff off at the same time. Okay. So, what are we talking about next? So I had some thoughts today. Been thinking about this QAnon thing for a while now. Let's shift gears a little. Because QAnon is something that you guys know has bothered me for a while, and I've always called Q a LARP. And I've always thought it was kind of nonsensical. And you know that I don't like the cult-like behavior out of Trump followers, right? Just not a big fan. I mean, I'm a Trump follower. I voted for the guy. I like what he's doing. I'm not crazy about everything he does. I'm realistic to understand. I'm realistic enough in my expectations to know that if I get 65% of what I like, I want to get out of, I want it out of Donald Trump, then I'm doing really, 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 really freaking well, right? He's not the second coming of the founding fathers, you know. He's not Orange Santa Claus. It's just that's not where we are. So I wrote a long post today. I was talking with some people, and I got into it on Twitter over the weekend about Q, because I stirred up a hornet's nest. Lee Stranahan retweet. It kicked over the hornet's nest. It was fun. And no, Trump is fantastic. Don't get me wrong. Like the ultimate shitlord. For nothing else, if Trump just keeps tweeting, I'll be happy. Just, that shit's funny. Comedy gold. But I got into it with people this weekend. about Q. And for the most part, I got a bunch of Q-tards acting like cultists and not engaging at any kind of functional level. But one guy did. And it sounded at first like he was just giving me a rash of shit. But then I responded to him like a rational human being. Came back to me like a rational human being. We went back and forth a bit and everything was kind of good. Because what I did was I kept talking about this idea that Q fosters false hope. Or fosters the wrong kind of hope. Not the hope that, in some it does, but for the most part, what it fosters is the kind of hope that says, it's the lazy hope. That it's the unfettered hope. It's the kind of hope you hear from really depressed Catholic grandmothers who say, well, it's in God's hands. They're terribly depressed. They know nothing's working out properly. But now it's in God's hands now whether my husband lives or not. I mean, don't get me wrong, that's not a disparagement of people who are religious. There's a limit to what is and what is not part of God's plan. It does not absolve you of your responsibility to take positive action to achieve your goals in the end, achieve your needs. And not just chalk it all up to, well, if it's going to work, God has a plan for me. No, I have zero patience for that. And so, and I get why people are susceptible to that kind of behavior, that kind of false or unfettered hope. I get it. I get it. I've been there. Okay. I spent a lot of my life as a terribly depressed, cynical, sometimes very bitter human being. I won't lie to you. It is very, very difficult to do what I do every day and remain positive. To steep myself in this shit every day. Leave myself in the minds of the most evil people on the planet and try and figure out what they're going to do next. Yeah, I'm great company at parties anymore, right? I get it. I want the world to be a better place and I want the bad guys punished. I get it. We all do. It's real. That desire. It's what got us all to roll the freaking bones and vote for Donald Trump, of all freaking people. Donald Trump. At the end of the day, he's still Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump is turning out to be more of a person than I thought he was. That's fantastic. I don't have that luxury. Yeah, not yet. So, not until there's 30,000 people following this channel, not 300. So guys, get on that. Because that really needs to happen. I get it. I really do. I want to believe the Q is real. I want to believe there's some Superman behind the scenes tweeting out little clues to all of us, letting us know, oh, everything's fine. We've got this, dude. Don't worry about it. Trump, just hold Trump's beer and everything will be good. I got it. I get it. I want to believe that so bad. It's a great movie script. I'll watch that movie, dude. I'll watch that movie 100 times and buy the Blu-ray and hand out copies to my friends that I find that I buy extras of in pawn shops for $5. So no, dude, you need to watch. This is the greatest movie ever. I'm all over it. But Santa Claus isn't real. And one of the things that I had as I was writing this article today, because what came out of that discussion with the guy on Twitter was about hope is not a plan. I say this all the time. Hope is not a plan. It's not a path to the stars either. It's not a path to anything. It's just hope. On its own, without the will to turn it into positive action, it's meaningless. It's ephemeral. It's like vaping, for Christ's sake. It's like the smoke while people are vaping. There's nothing left afterwards. It's just there. It dissipates. I give into this stuff all the time. It means nothing. But the collective energy and time and research and everything that's out there and the desire to make a better world, to overthrow these evil fucking people, just put it in bald freaking terms, is so high, is so strong, there's so much of it. It creates its own reality. It becomes the reality we see in the future. Q is nothing more than the manifestation. Whoever's writing Q shit is nothing more than the manifestation of all our desire to see it, to see all of this come true. Wyatt's political horoscope. Q is the laughing man. You guys haven't seen Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex? Please go buy the Blu-rays off of Amazon. Go watch them. Greatest television show of all time. Not kidding. So much wisdom in that 26 episodes. 12 hours worth of anime. Unbelievable. Standalone Complex is a phenomenon of copycats of behavior spontaneously generating out of an incident that may or may not have happened without an actual spark or original source. It's imitators that come up out of the zeitgeist of events, of circumstances surrounding a particular event in time. Standalone Complex. You look up the concept. You can read my blog post from today. There's a link in the description down below, or you can just look up the Wikipedia on Standalone Complex. It's not an unknown phenomenon. This idea is really, really interesting. It's really brilliant. And the more I thought about it today, the more I thought, wow, this is exactly what we're doing. This is what Q is. It's all of these people going crazy, so desperate and so thirsting for shut the fuck up, anime is gay. If you haven't watched that, you haven't watched SAC, fuck you. How's that? Most anime does suck. SAC does not suck. My wife hates anime. She loves SAC. It's that good. I mean, it is that good. Juan Isaac, whew, right off in the other direction. Do you think Spain will ever get Gibraltar back? I don't know. I doubt it. I don't know. So, the idea of Q as is that thing. He's the laughing man. He's a standalone complex. There could be 20 guys out there being Q. Some of them could be CIA plants. Some of them could be jackasses on 4chan who just like getting a rise out of people. Some of them could be actual insiders tweeting out some information, slipping out some information, some nuggets of information. But as Lee Stranahan rightly points out, a lot of what Q does is cold reading. And then you take that one step further and you say, okay, now it's cold reading. Now it's taken on a life of its own. The television series is called Ghost in the Shell Stand-Alone Complex. Very famous. It's a legendary within the anime field. You cannot throw a rock on the internet without finding a reference to Sack. It's everywhere. It's one of the, I mean, it's Ghost in the Shell, for Christ's sake. It's the anime property. Because Keurig Eichenwald likes cartoon porn doesn't mean it's all tentacle porn. Oh God, I've seen some of that shit, man. It's I used to have a friend who used to watch that stuff. I'm like Ray, man, turn that shit off. It's making me sick. Can't do it. I like Lee. Lee gives me a platform on Sputnik once a week. Lee is who he is. I mean, people think I'm annoying. He's a guy who refuses to back down on an issue. He's a very smart guy with a distinct point of view and a dogged adherence to the truth. Early on, Joanne Leone, who's generally comes at all of this opposition from the left, do not hold that against her. Joanne is awesome. Early on, she said, I thought Q was an operation to maintain Trump support after he sold out his voters. Probably some insiders. It's very possible. I think that things like Q exist. Okay. Let me put it this way. I think there are plenty of insiders inspired by Trump that have leaked all sorts of information. And maybe it's filtered through the back channels of the internet to finally wind up on 4chan. And then some guy said, okay, I'm just going to make this. I'm going to make an identity on 4chan. I'm going to call him Q. After the friggin' Steve Ditko's the question, don't let anybody fucking kid you, by the way. R.I.P. Steve Ditko. R.I.P. Steve. No, I mean, dude, seriously, the guy calls himself Q, for Christ's sake. Friggin' question. The faceless anonymous man, the faceless detective, doggedly pursuing the truth. Come on, with the plan. Come on, it's the question. I love it, dude. I'm like the biggest question fan in the world, but at the end of the day, it's still all really dodgy. And I love the idea that it was, an operation to maintain Trump support. I think that's great. I think that a lot of what we saw from Q early on, or from other people on 4chan in the early days before Q became a thing, that there was plenty of information being leaked through back channels of the internet. Yeah, I know. I can imagine how bad it was, Joanne. Joanne pipes up to say that it was this way with Obama true believers. It took years for them to even remotely see somewhat clearly. Yeah, I get it. I really do. I can imagine it was hard. You know how hard it is to be a libertarian and call both sides full of shit, and you're the only guy in the room going, two wings of the same bird of prey. Been doing this shit for 20 years. It's like I got my neocons on the left. I got neocons to the left of me and Marxists to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with me. Yes, Suzanne, there are lots of paths to something better than what we've been offered. Absolutely. We don't all have to agree all the time. Hillary. I'm off popcorn for the foreseeable future. Cynical skeptic. Aside from the fact that I'm allergic to corn, I'm also I'm really trying to be very strict on my ketogenic diet. I got to lose 20 pounds. Yeah, Gerald Celente calls it both parties a two-headed monster. Tom Woods has the best line of all time. They're two wings of the same bird of prey. It doesn't get any better than that. It really doesn't. So there you guys have it. Maybe Trump will, maybe it'll be good who Trump picks for the Supreme Court. Maybe they won't be. Trump is different, right? Trump is definitely different than Bush, Clinton, or Obama, right? Not, picking these supposed conservatives who really aren't. We're not going to get any of that stuff. I don't know. Epic pork. No, I can't even eat pork rinds anymore because they're all protein and not enough fat. They spike my blood sugar because my metabolism is that screwed up. I need to literally go on a fat fast. I have to get the next 3 gallons of milk together and spin it and then eat nothing but goat cream in my coffee all day for 3 days. It's literally what I need to do to jumpstart my metabolism properly. It's kind of crazy. But that shit's good. Yeah, even pork rinds with goat cheese with high, and my goat cheese is really fatty. It's just not enough. And user 13, you are correct. The Supreme Court shouldn't is the problem with the Supreme Court is that it matters so much. It shouldn't. Spoken like a true libertarian. The fact that why people get so upset about money in politics is because there's money in politics. Why we care about all these little things so much and people invest so much of themselves in these little teeny edge case things that the Supreme Court may go the wrong way on this one little teeny issue. Oh my God, it's the end of the world. Is because it matters so freaking much because we have invested everything and all of our morality in 9 philosopher kings who were politically motivated, sitting on a bench in a drafty old stone building in Washington D.C. as opposed to thinking for our fucking selves. Joanne with the last comment for the evening, which invokes yet another comic book. Heck, I'm waiting for them to use aliens as the next big boogeyman to ramp up the military budget. So saith the Watchman. Okay, y'all have a great night. This is a show. It's been an hour. I'm really tired. I only got 3 hours of sleep last night. If I seem a little punchy, it's because of that. Y'all take care. You have a great night. Make sure you subscribe. Stick on the ice.